Welcome to another episode of Brand Chops, where we're chopping up brands to see what they're made of. My name is Zach Lemire.
And I'm Chris Duame. And today we're going to be talking about branding, how to build the brand story, and to help create that better brand for your company. And today's guest is James Kwan. He's the founder, CEO, and lead strategist with Figments. They're based out of Rhode Island. He helps clients craft the right story and build a predictable system that drives results. Thanks for coming on, James.
Thanks, guys. Thanks, Zach. Chris, this is going to be fun. Really love following your stuff and love having been partners with you for a while. So looking forward to the conversation.
Absolutely.
Let's just jump right in. How do you think brand strategy and marketing strategy differ? And also, how do they complement each other, driving a business forward?
Yeah, so good. The way that we talk about it as an agency is in three parts. How do we tell the story first? How does the story connect to the exact right audience? Are we telling the story in a way that the audience that we want to reach actually hears it, understands it, maybe even the way that they speak about it? Are we using the right words that they would use? People miss that all the time. They'll jump very commonly right into putting together a design or posting a thing. But we have to get that story right first. Then we can build the world that story lives in. Usually that's beautiful visual branding, content creation, video production, website design, whatever it takes to tell that story. And then finally, can't just look and sound good. We need to build a system to bring people to that story and actually engage. In my opinion, capital B brand really is everything. It's the umbrella that houses all these things together, because your brand has to have a great story, a great look and feel, and a system that's actually making that brand come to life. If a tree falls in a forest and nobody hears it, does it exist? If a brand is beautiful and nobody sees it, nobody buys the thing, does it exist? I don't know. So that's a worthy discussion. But so capital B brand, I think most people think about brand as story and visual branding, but I think it encompasses all of it. Marketing, similarly, I think marketing is really results based. It's data based. So do we have data in the storytelling? Absolutely. So they kind of cross paths a little bit, but I would usually make the distinction that story, visual, tone, look, feel, brand, and then systems, campaigns, data, analysis, marketing.
You brought up a really interesting point there too about making sure that you're talking to the audience in the proper way. So, maybe not using jargon or using industry terms that they may not recognize, or if you have a more sophisticated audience, that you do talk about those things. Like, you have to pick and choose the battles and who you're talking to for some of that stuff.
We meet a lot of small companies that might be selling an item and they're super smart. I usually tell them, close your eyes. This is a great exercise for people listening to this podcast too. Close your eyes for a second and just repeat this mantra after me. I am not my customer. I am not my customer. I am not my customer. Of course you're not. Yeah, of course you're not, right? You are way smarter than your customer. You are way more experienced than your customer. You've done this a million times and your customer barely knows you. And I think the genius fallacy, or there's a term for this, but you'll start to use technical jargon all the time when trying to sell your materials because it makes you sound smarter, but actually you're not connecting to the people you're actually trying to reach. There's power in understanding, hearing, listening, asking your customer, your actual customers, how do you ask for this? What are the challenges that you really have when you're looking for this thing, so that we can address that the way that you want to see it. We show up in the places where you are. We speak your language. We talk the way you would feel comfortable hearing it. That's also important for brands to understand.
I came across this yesterday. We sent a proposal out to a client and we had our second meeting with him. And he's like, I just got to say off the bat, I didn't understand anything. I'm like, okay. So we got to go back and relook at the proposal. I mean, I thought we had put it in the terms that were understandable, but I think we have to even bring it down a level even more, just to make sure that the client's understanding what we're actually going to be delivering on a regular basis. Now, it turned out to be a good conversation and things look pretty good, but without that second meeting to clarify some of those items, we may not have had that opportunity.
And that's really the challenge. And a lot of the work that we do, we use psychological archetypes to really try to hone in on what that tone of voice is that we should be using with this client. What is it that they love? What is it that they hate? What are they afraid of? What are they driven by? What other brands do they love? It's challenging because you don't get to have that level of research on the first interaction with a client just through the proposal. So we can't really craft them as much as we wish that we wanted to. But just like you were saying, James, how do they need to be spoken to? What tone of voice do they need to hear so that they're resonating with this message? Because
Yeah.
it's more than just the words. It's also the way that you say them and
Yes.
what language that you use and what they will understand the most. But
Absolutely.
that's an interesting thing that happened yesterday, Chris.
Yeah. So I love that you're doing that psychological understanding, the psychological archetype too. If you guys remember and marketing professionals remember 5 years ago, it was personas, right? We were looking at personas deeply. And then 10, 15 years ago, it was just age, sex, location. It was like how old are they? Where are they? Maybe how much money you make. But when you really look at the psychological profile of what are their pain points, what are they struggling with on a day-to-day basis, even outside of what we may help them solve, where are they right now? What do we need to do, to address those pains and those concerns? Can we meet them where they are? That's a really profound way to think about your customer and the person that you're targeting.
Also, it's worth thinking about who's the one that's doing the research on you too. Oftentimes it's not the business owner that makes that first call out. It could be a director of marketing. It could be an admin assistant. It could be an operations manager. There's a lot of different people that are going to be, potentially doing the first round of, collecting data for someone, right? So you have to make sure that you're answering their questions or making them look good and being able to talk on their level as well. So I just think that's important to think about. So when you almost have to look at who's the one making the inquiries. It's not always the business owner.
And that's been true for a little while. The thing that I get called back from companies would be like, "Well, James, our customers do understand this technical jargon. Okay, do you know that the person in charge of looking for 5 vendors is an intern? Like they hired an intern. They tasked that out to an intern to try to find you, and you need to make it make sense for them. This is a quick story. This is kind of a power of social media, power of video, power of storytelling, kind of all rolled into one. We had a client who basically invented online account opening for banks, and really popular on the East Coast. They're killing it, and they wanted to get into the West Coast. Lots of big banks out there that they wanted to try to work with. We had created a video. They were trying to get into this one bank, couldn't get any connections, no foot in the door, and the assistant to the CFO saw our video scroll through on social media and said, "Isn't this what we were looking for? Isn't this online accounting, easy online accounting for financial institutions? Isn't this it?" CFO got it. Yes. Got the meeting, closed a multi 7, 8, 9 million figure deal. It's what a great example of being able to tell that story concisely, putting it in a place where it's going to get found, making it simple enough for the assistant of the CFO to get track of it. And, hats off to their team for having the team understand some of the situations, like they hear the challenges of the company. So everybody's, spidey sense could be going off when they hear those solutions out there.
I think at the end of the day, we're all in the same business. We're in the communication business, whether that's visual, whether that's messaging, whether that's making the user experience easy to use, because you're communicating with just placement of buttons sometimes, or you're communicating with different things. And so when people always ask me, they're like, "So what do you do?" I'm like, "Well, honestly, at the end of the day, I'm a communicator, and I help people communicate the highest value to the people that want it the most. In some cases, the people that need it the most." It's so important to really make sure that you understand who's going to be receiving this information before you start speaking about it or communicating it in any way. The logo, and everybody thinks it's a brand, and it's not. Your logo is really there so you can be easy to recognize, easy to remember, easy to share. There's lots of businesses out there that have a multi-million-dollar, business that have terrible branding as far as their identity goes. But ultimately, your brand is the promise that you keep.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about the promises that you're making, or it's not about what you plan on doing or your logo. It's what promise have you kept over and over and over and over and over again. And what have people come to rely on, be loyal to, and buy into over and over and over again? It's that promise.
Absolutely. Yeah. Where it's going to fall apart is in the communication. Time and time again, folks that are bad at marketing, oftentimes they don't call it marketing. Sometimes a lot of nonprofits that we work with, they don't have that term in their lexicon. So that it's communication and development. when we're helping them, they're realizing, oh, right, we have these great ideas, we have this great mission, this vision, this passion. We don't talk about it at all to the audience that needs to hear it. We don't share those stories internally with our team. So absolutely, it breaks apart when we need to share it.
I think that's a good point too, just from nonprofit perspective, is they don't look at what they're doing as marketing, even though that's what it is. They're out there just talking about their mission and trying to. There's marketing even in just getting volunteers. There's a level of marketing involved with that. There's a level of marketing getting people to be on their board. Like those are all things that they don't really take into account, but those are clients of what they're trying to achieve. They're trying to acquire those people. So
yeah. Unless
where people fall on their face a lot with the marketing thing is that they think that marketing is about talking about yourself. And I truly believe it's about getting other people to talk about you. That's marketing. Having a brand is having something to say and align with and a personality that relates to. But marketing's not about talking about yourself.
Yeah, right. I'm sure you've talked about the story brand architecture in the past. And we love looking at that 7-part for anybody who may not know. The character has a problem. They meet a guide who gives them a plan, calls them to action, and it ends in success or failure, comedy or tragedy. That's the framework of every great story basically has ever existed. And it's wired in us to hear that story well. When businesses use that, businesses can use that framework powerfully, but often they get the part wrong in making themselves the main character of the story. And so here I am, here are the issues that I have, here's who we work with, and so work with us, please. But it is markedly different, markedly better, night and day, when you are able to put the customer as the hero, put them as the main character, understand and empathize their problems, exactly like we talked about, psychologically, emotionally, where they are, and then introduce yourself as the guide. I'm Yoda, I'm Obi-Wan. And if you can wrap your head around, I'm not Luke Skywalker, I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, that's a powerful change in the narrative of your marketing and your brand.
One thing that I've seen clients push back on when it comes to story brand is they don't like to see all their services lower down on the page. Like they always want to have their services as high as possible, and they want to promote all this great stuff they do, which I try to iterate to them that is stuff that eventually they're going to want to know, but they first need to make sure that you can even solve whatever problem they're dealing with right now. There's that above the fold, below the fold scenario. I think people are more willing to scroll the page now than they've ever been. And so you still need to have some above the fold things like call to action so that it's quick and easy to get in contact with somebody. But I think that they're more willing to get down the page, scroll, learn about how they're solving that problem, and then get into the services and then dig into those service pages, which probably have more of the jargon and things along those lines because they've dug into it at that point.
Yeah. What we found works really well is we give those clients really, really beautiful service pages. So we go, yeah, that's great content. Let's put that at the very, very tippy top of this page. And let's make sure that your end client can get to that page very quickly from the homepage. So we still need to start with story. Hey, this problem, this solution, this architecture is really important, right? Yes. Okay, great. We need a call to action so we can get, the number 1 or 2 things. We want to direct people into the right place. Okay, great. Then we can show off the offerings. And then on that page, we can talk at length about how we're going to do it and what it is and how awesome we are and how we've done it amazingly before with social proof. I mean, that usually solves the desire to want to jump into that right away because it is often, I think for most small companies, they're thinking about the what. Like I need to talk about the what. The what is just not that interesting. At the end of the day, of course you do that thing. I hope you are a good plumber. I hope you're a good, you deliver great XYZ services. But connect with me. Why you? What is it about you that's different? What is it about you that is going to resonate with what I need? Are you faster? Are you better? Are you fewer mistakes? Growing? I have no idea. Like whatever
and
that
why
story
should I
is.
care, right? Like
Yeah.
as the customer, we use the feature advantage benefit thing. It's like the feature is so black and white. It's 12 megapixels. On the surface, great. Nobody cares about 12 megapixels, but that's
Sure.
the feature.
Yeah.
What is the advantage of having those megapixels? And then what's the benefit to me? What is in it for me? Because like you were saying too, with the story brand, we're hardwired to survive or thrive, and all that story brand stuff, it's a great model, but it's based on Aristotle's 7 points of storytelling. This is foundational. And it's like you said, it's how we resonate with things. It's also how we compartmentalize large, complex bodies of information into something that makes sense. And we're driven by story. That creating a gap keeps us hooked. And when businesses can understand that story is the powerful tool to use, and it's directly in alignment with your sales pipeline and your funnel, attention, interest, desire, action funnel. You don't get their attention by talking about yourself. And again, just the social proof thing you brought up, James. We were just talking about this. It's just like marketing's not about talking about yourself. It's about getting other people to talk about you, because it's so much more powerful when you get a testimonial than when you tell people, look at the badge I'm wearing on my chest and I'm the king of all things. And nobody cares. Nobody cares because it doesn't resonate. And if you get that my attention and my interest, and then you get me down in the funnel to have a desire to actually hear about why now, okay, I see that you understand my problem. I'm interested that I think you can solve it. Now, are you the right person? Now talk about yourself. It's directly parallel to your pipeline.
I heard this really quick exercise to figure out what that thing is. 2 word strategy. So that 12 megapixels and this feature and feature, so that you will have a such and such and such and such. So that this will be easier every time you do it. So that everybody's going to. That's a really powerful trick or a really powerful tool to just kind of keep in the back of your mind as you're thinking about your own company, your own services, and growing your brand. Absolutely, 100%. I would agree. Your customer, even if they're not able to articulate it, they care more about the so that than they do about what comes first.
What's in it for me?
That's that's a great way to sort of dig in deeper. And I also think another trick that I've found useful is like the cut it in half. So like every time you've got some piece of content, cut it in half, then cut it in half again until you can't cut it in half anymore. And the goal is that's going to be more impactful than a longer paragraph that nobody's going to read.
Especially with today's attention spans, you've got to make it succinct, tight, focused. And if you're not helping me survive or thrive, why should I care?
Right. Yeah. Like you probably remember when I started, the length of videos that we were producing was 5 to 8 minutes, I think. And that was short for many of our clients because they would be doing 12, 15 minutes. We're like, you can't do those anymore. 5 minutes, 8 minutes at the most. What is it today? I think it's 6 to 9 seconds. Is like, we need to get the point across quickly enough so they don't scroll away in a feed. That's really hard. It's really difficult.
And there's so many interesting techniques that I'm learning through just these really great creators on TikTok.
Yes.
On how to use multiple things. He was talking about somebody who's got like 30 million followers in days, and all she does is go to dirty places and she digs up something dirty and then she cleans it up. But he was explaining why this works. First of all, there's another thing where if you're throwing a ping pong ball into a jar while you're talking about something else, you've got this other thing that's keeping me hooked. But as she's cleaning things off, there's a promise of a payoff. And it's all by design. It's going to happen at the end of this. You found something in this old cemetery or whatever. And there's a promise of a payoff. So it keeps you hooked. And it's just these fantastic tools that is just basically extensions of storytelling.
Totally. Yeah. This is so interesting because I saw this with movie trailers. So it used to be when trailers would come on TV, it would start off with the logos, right? Paramount, and then the stars, and then it would be quiet, and then like 2 people having coffee and like hanging out, and then the tension grows, and it's like a mini story within the trailer. You can't have that anymore. People will scroll away right when they see the logo. So if you'll start to notice this when you see a trailer on social media now, it starts with an explosion. Almost always, it's like an explosion. Or like someone kisses, someone falls in the water, like something crazy happens, and then it cuts to the logo, and then it basically shows you a much shortened version of that story. We have to see that excitement first, or else we're not going to pay attention. And so, yeah, it's really interesting to see that framework of the story, even for Aristotle. how it's changing to deliver it in a way people will actually engage with it.
And all these people aren't spending time on production value. You know, these
Many people.
creators that are getting tons and tons of followers, it's all story.
Yeah. Yeah. Some people even fake it, that attention. I see people telling stories while like they're playing, there's a video game playing in the background. They're not even,
Yeah,
nothing
that's the
to
thing.
do,
It's like
unrelated.
it keeps you watching at the same time, because there's an actual like psychological technique that it's escaping me right now, but
Yeah.
but it works.
It does, absolutely.
I almost feel like the world of TikTok and the short form videos, a whole nother beast when it comes to marketing. I feel like it's just so much involved. It's so time consuming. I don't think people really truly grasp how difficult that kind of marketing is.
And the craziest part, Chris, is that once you've cracked the code, you can't use it anymore. It's too commonplace, right? Like the video game, guaranteed it's going to start to die off because you're like, what is this? Why am I watching this? This is silly. And then it's something else. Somebody breaks the code a different way. Somebody comes up with something completely unique. And for me, that's what's exciting. I really love constantly breaking the mold a little bit, trying to create something new and interesting and unique around stories, around visual. When you bring it all together, that's when the brand's like, wow, this is a brand I should care about and think about and pay attention to.
And if you do it right, there's a huge payoff. There's countless stories of people who started. I mean, Justin Bieber started as a YouTube creator or something, right? Like, and just recently, Saturday Night Live, I think for the first time ever, just hired somebody that had nothing but funny videos on TikTok. That's it. And now they're a new person. Normally they go to those the sketch comedy groups like Groundlings or something, or they'll go find stand-up comedy person. But this person literally is just making jokes on their couch with their cat and poor lighting, just an old cell phone. And if it's consistent and the story's great and you can exemplify that you can tell stories in different ways and make them humorous, it's pay. I mean, now you're working on Saturday Night Live. This is some people's lifelong dream.
Yeah.
And you just found it through TikTok. It's amazing.
I think that's really smart of them to do, though, because they know what their audience needs to look like. They're going to go out and find what that audience is really connecting with, and that's why that influencer marketing is so important. Is aligning your brand with somebody that makes sense for your audience. It's really smart for them to do that. I didn't realize they had done that.
Yeah, that's brand new as of last weekend. I just saw it, and there was first episode of the 50th season or something like that, and one of the new people just came from TikTok, and they've never done it before. We're talking about like Eddie Murphy. We're talking about like these classic comedians. It's unbelievable how it's evolved.
It's interesting though, from a marketing perspective, from a business perspective, it actually probably makes a lot of sense because that person probably had several million followers before 100%. They joined SNL. So interestingly, beforehand, SNL would hire these kind of maybe no name, maybe slightly known actors and comedians that maybe regionally they had a following of, let's call it a few hundred people, which would be pretty good, right? Now they have a baked-in audience of several million that get to join in, and now we're watching SNL because of this person, right? So it's actually the reverse. It's not just that the person on their couch playing with the cat is getting this awesome job at SNL. It's like SNL's really tapping into, whoa, this person comes with this on. So I'm looking to write a book soon, and realizing that my social following is not good enough for really marketing this book, and so we're doubling down on social media because we know that that's going to be leverage to help us get the book out there, do better in just general business practices, and that's a whole nother ball of wax to tackle.
I think that would be important for the audience to know. Talk a little bit about what your strategy or your plan is to do that, because I run into a lot of small businesses that are looking to do something like that, like they're just trying to build their own personal brand. Yeah.
So without giving it all away, and hopefully a little bit of incentive for people to find me and follow me, I'll tell you the thinking behind the strategies. One, trying to create something that feels unique and different. I think maybe the hardest thing. There's nothing new under the sun. It feels like they're doing all sorts of random, crazy things, but something that connects to my audience, connects to my niche, connects to me authentically. I have a background in culinary and food. I enjoy playing golf. I could do those things, but I think starting there would be a little weird in the niche that I want to go in, which is around business and marketing and branding. Another thing is, what is the hook? So how do I connect all of these videos together, or all these clips together into something that feels cohesive and is a story that kind of continues? So we were thinking about, oh, maybe it's this one big story and they all kind of harken back to things. Like a couple of people I follow, they have these like running gags in their videos that you only realize it if you've been watching for a little while, or things like that. And the most important thing that I've been the worst at is just doing it. And so I can get caught up myself of like strategizing too much, when really like turning on the phone, trying it, getting feedback, doing it very, very regularly is what we tell our clients. And I've been bad about doing it myself, like a starving baker.
Yeah, not being afraid of the slow start or the trip and fall in the beginning, because just like riding a bike, you're never going to learn unless you get past the skidding your knee fear.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Get on the bike, do it again and again.
Just got to get those reps in. That's what they say.
That's right. 100%. Yeah. How about you guys? Okay. Are you, when you're trying to break into social, and I guess it could be any habit, is there what's the hurdle? What's the biggest hurdle for you guys?
I think the biggest hurdle is the algorithm.
Oh yeah.
Always changing.
Yeah.
Always changing. I heard something the other day, and I can't qualify this because it came from somebody on TikTok, but they were trying to teach you about how every month TikTok, if you're popular, TikTok will purposely take you out of your For You page.
Mm-hmm.
But in order for you to get them back in the For You page, you've got to go back and you've got to comment or something. You've got to engage. You can't just be just consuming. And it's interesting because every platform has a different algorithm and has a different focus. And Gary Vee talks about the TikTokification of social media and the whole concept of how TikTok's model works. And you see it in Reels, you see it in stories, you see it in clones of TikTok. And it works. I'll tell you right now, I spend too much time on TikTok to the point where I've had to set a thing on my phone where it cuts me off every 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Although I keep extending it 15 minutes, at least it pauses me because it's designed to hypnotize you.
That's
so
right.
You get sucked into it. But I've never one time have I ever engaged. I've never liked anything. I mean, it's not true. I like a few things because I want to tell the algorithm what I want to see more of. But otherwise than that, because I want to write some books too, and I want to do some other things. And I, like you, I'm hands-off-ish on most social media, especially like your Facebooks and stuff. But there's no question that it's a powerful tool and it's necessary these days. You cannot be a part of it. It's just, it's not an option anymore. Especially,
That's right.
I mean, look, they're hiring people on Saturday Night Live right now from TikTok, just making whatever jokes they are. But then there's also people getting super famous for everything. Everything.
Super niche.
Excellent guy on. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, super niche. I heard there is no niche too small now. We have people who just make like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches like every day, and they do it kind of like in a weird and different, unique way. And
I saw something the other day too about a guy who does cucumbers, and he just focuses on cucumbers, and that's it. And it's just, and so he's got a double layer, and they were talking about like it is a phallic shaped thing, so there's that naughtiness to it, even though he doesn't make it naughty, but there's that angle to it, subconscious.
Yeah.
But also, it's, I forget what they called it, like he owned the cucumber space basically because that's all he focused on.
Cucumber market.
He did. Every day he's just making something else with the cucumber, and it's not gross. It's not dirty. It's legit. It's not really useful though. It's not like cucumber recipes for fitness or whatever. It's just cucumber recipes, but he's cornered it, and he's gotten a huge following in a short period of time because he hyper niched.
Yeah, I love it.
You know who's going to be, somebody from the cucumber industry is going to be knocking on his doorstep to
do
something with
definitely.
That. There's a lot of opportunities that come with
and that. Don't sleep on LinkedIn. So maybe many of folks listening in are like, nah, whatever, it's not for me still because it's B2B or whatever. Businesses are people too. The people you work with in business absolutely have a Facebook or Instagram or TikTok. They are spending their time online somewhere, whether it's looking at grandchildren or still fastest growing, a lot of adoption, especially in retirees. So yeah, don't sleep on LinkedIn. LinkedIn has, I think their version of stories was maybe the worst one, but the wall is still good. The reel is still good. Content is still good. I have a few friends who are really leveraging that platform very well. And it's a very different audience. So I don't love the here's one post shared on all the platforms in the same exact way. That is not a good strategy anymore either. There are very different people, very different eyeballs that are on these different platforms that are going to engage with you depending on what you post there.
Yeah, there's a guy that I watch on TikTok, and he does a lot of stuff about classic gaming. And I used to be an avid gaming collector and reseller and broker and all that stuff. So I had like 4 of every console ever made, just in case one broke, or I could also hack another one. And then I have pieces and I have this and I could tradable, whatever. But he's always interesting, but he's just getting me interested enough to force me to go to the long form version of that content on YouTube. And it's brilliant. It's not just a carbon copy. It's not even a clip from the YouTube thing. It's introducing and getting you interested in the thing he's talking about. And a lot of time he works with this guy named Dr. Mod, and this guy's online, and he will modify everything. And it's nuts what he does. And I used to modify my consoles too, just to see how far I could push them to do what they weren't supposed to do. That was the game for me more than the games I was playing. It was like, how can I make this device do things it's just not supposed to?
Zach, did you have a,
but it hooks you in one platform and forces you to the other one to get the real meat.
Yes, right. Yeah, YouTube is typically that one. Like, people send you there because it's long form. Zach, did you have 4 versions of a Nintendo Virtual Boy?
I did, and I had
4 of them. You had 4. All 4 then that were ever made.
I had 4. No, I actually had one when it was just going out. I had the Wonder Swan. I had the Neo Geo Pockets. I had, deep cuts, man. I had every kind of Nintendo controller that existed, and especially was interested in the ones for, like, back in 1980 something, they were making accessible controllers for people with disabilities.
Oh yeah.
Nobody knew about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like they had balls and different things. So like if you had limited mobility or different ability, I give Nintendo, and this is a whole nother episode, I give Nintendo a ton of credit for their innovation. They're always doing something interesting. 1985, what business did they have making Robbie the robot? Like, they didn't even need to be that good at this, but they're always innovating. They're always creating something. The Power Glove, the Power Pad, there's so many things. The Game Boy printer, like the Game Boy camera, like all these things where they're finding new ways. And they're the ones who pioneered basically motion control, because you never saw a PS3 controller that had 6-axis until you saw the Wii.
Yeah, it's
fascinating what they're doing.
I saw these stats. Nintendo, there's like a list of things Nintendo is older than, like the Eiffel Tower. It's older than the Eiffel Tower. It's older.
Yeah, they started as a card company, and they actually made some pretty sketchy deals with cigarette companies way back in the day. And I learned this from the guy on TikTok, when I was like, "Ooh, this is new stuff I didn't know." I did my senior thesis in college on video games, and interactivity, because I was like, I want to do something I'm passionate about.
I feel like the more and more I learn about you, Zach, the more boring I feel like I am.
I haven't even scratched the surface, my friend. You don't even know what I'm up to.
You don't know how boring you are, Chris.
Maybe I could corner the market. Maybe I could corner the market on boring. Could that be something?
Hey, if you can't lose it, use it, my friend.
Well, actually, Chris, I saw one of the pages I follow is it's just video of a white slice of white bread falling. That's like the whole channel, is every clip
corner
is
on
just,
white bread.
Yeah, white bread falling.
And this is a channel you're following?
Oh yeah,
so
for sure.
Why? What about it?
I want to see what like the captions are always different and kind of interesting and funny, and the comments are like new and different and funny, and it's kind of interesting to follow. Yeah.
James, so I know you brought us up in the green room about your CMO mastermind. So why don't you tell us quickly in the audience, like, how they can be a part of this and what value they can get from it?
Yeah, so we have live discussions similar to this every month. We have our mastermind group that meets. So the format of that is we get together, we have some topics, new things that happen around marketing, technology, and in business, and we discuss those things kind of in a podcast style. We record that part, and then we shut off the recording, and we have an open table, open forum, kind of mastermind group for any issues around the table. I like to say collective IQ of the table is always higher than any one advisor or person. So bring it around the table, and then you start to build the trust and respect around the table from the others, and have that feeling of comfort. And so we get to address a lot of things. And for folks who maybe they can't afford a strategist, or they don't have a means to hire an agency, formal agency like us, but this is a great way to get connected, stay involved, learn what's in the know on a regular basis, and be involved a little bit in the conversation. So if you're interested in that, I'd love to invite you to a few of these and to check them out. And yeah, I would love to, I'd love to extend that invite to all your listeners.
Yeah, give us the link, and we'll put it in the show notes when we post this, so
Absolutely.
that they have an easy way to get to you.
Yep.
Because I think that's a huge value for people who are, they need this service, but they're not quite at the level where, like you said, they can afford a strategist or an agency.
Yes.
But they still need help, and honestly, getting help as early as possible could save you so much money and time, even if it's not perfect.
That's right.
Better than nothing.
Yeah, and I know how lonely it could be as a solopreneur or a tiny business who doesn't have the means and doesn't have the network. They don't have the other business owners to just bounce ideas off of. And so this is kind of a space for that, for other small businesses, nonprofits getting together. You can even send someone who might be a junior. So if you are a bigger business and you have a non-senior person running your social media or your marketing, send that person to the meeting, and it could be hugely impactful for them.
Great. Awesome. Great. Well, thanks so much for coming on the show, James.
You guys.
This is a really fun conversation. Always love to, like you said, the collective IQ. It's always great to hear different stories and different observations and things. For the audience, you got to check this guy out. We'll put all these links in the show notes, and tune in next time where we're chopping up brands to see what they're made of. Brand Chops is brought to you by the fine people at Pivot Creative. Pivot Creative is a full-service branding and marketing agency that partners with businesses to build brands that connect so that every dollar you spend is an investment and not an expense. If you need some branding or marketing guidance, a website, a new brand, or want to learn more about one of the topics we cover on the show, please reach out to us at pivotcreative.com. If you know someone that would benefit from learning more from one of our shows, please share the episode. Visit brand-chops.com. And as always, like and subscribe if you find this content to be helpful. See you next time on Brand Chops, where we chop up brands to see what they're made of.